Judges say they're on reasonable grounds to suspect the Taliban Supreme Leader and Chief Justice are guilty of persecuting women and girls. Well, let's talk about some of the issues involved now. I'm joined live from San Diego by Sean Van Diver. He's founder and president of AfghanEvac, a US charity that works to resettle Afghans who worked with US forces. Thanks so much for joining us on BBC News. First of all, you might tell us a little bit about the role that so many Afghanis played for the US military operation in Afghanistan.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me here today, Katrina. Look, Afghan wartime allies, locals that lived in the places where the United States military and our partner forces were prosecuting the war, played an extraordinary role, right? It wasn't simply translating, it wasn't simply driving us around. These folks are folks that kept us safe, that saved our lives in many cases, and they're the folks that stood up for the idea of democracy, made sure that the American ideals and the Allied ideals were taking root in Afghanistan during our 20-year conflict there. These are folks not only that served alongside us, but folks that stood up to serve in their own communities, folks that prosecuted and put the Taliban away, folks that ran for office and won and were guiding their country to a brighter, more democratic future. These are family of active duty U.S. military, and all of these folks are now at risk because of their relationship to us. And unfortunately, the United States government is talking about all the various ways they can find to send them back into danger.
And Sean, do you see that their situation has materially changed for the better, as Secretary Noem outlined?
No, it's clear to me that Secretary Noem doesn't know what she's talking about. Things have not materially improved in Afghanistan. If they had, then there wouldn't be a level 4 travel warning. There wouldn't be a visa ban. There wouldn't be all of these conditions around going there. And frankly, I would challenge the secretary to send her own daughter there. Women in Afghanistan can't be seen in public. They can't be heard in public. They can't go to the store on their own without a man. They can't go to school and get an education. Even in their own homes, they can't be seen in the windows of their own homes. They have to shut the windows. It's that restrictive and bad. Nothing has materially improved there. In fact, it's only gotten worse and worse and worse and more dangerous for these courageous people who stood with us.
Now, there are a category of people who haven't managed to make it to the US yet, and there are those who are already here who have now had their status removed. What happens to those who are already here?
Sure. Well, if the folks who are here under temporary protected status don't have another way to protect them, like an asylum application in, or parole, or another status, they lose their ability to work. And if they get caught, they're going to be sent back. We hope that everybody has filed an asylum application. It should not be hard to establish credible fear because of the great danger that they're in from the Taliban, we've seen a lot of retribution. And for folks that are not here yet, well, unless they're in a special immigrant visa category, it's going to be really hard for them to get here because the Trump administration just signed an executive order banning travel from Afghanistan, except for very narrow exceptions. And look, there are people that the United States government had brought to a third country, Pakistan or Qatar or elsewhere, and they were in the care of the United States government. There's 1,500 of these people in Qatar right now. And unfortunately, 900 of those people are in the refugee pathway. Now, I want to tell you who these folks are. These are all the people that I described earlier, people who stood up for the idea of democracy and are now in danger. But the population is made up of more than half women. More than half are children. These are women and children that the State Department, in fact, led by a woman named Deputy Assistant Secretary of State Mary Bishoping, who is an Afghan woman herself and led the charge for the House Foreign Affairs Committee investigation into the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan, where she said things like, we should never leave people behind, that it would be unconscionable and unforgivable to leave women and girls.
Just on that point, what does it say about the US military in other countries right now who may be turning to local people there to help them if there isn't kind of an escape route or a help plan for them afterwards? Just briefly, if you can.
Well, sure. Look, how is anybody supposed to trust us, right? when you've got Das Bishoping trying to send these people back to Afghanistan after getting out, when you've got folks that are being snatched up by ICE here in the United States, and you've got people languishing in Afghanistan and Pakistan, they can't come back. How could anybody possibly trust us?
Okay, all right. Sean Van Diver there, founder and president of AfghanEvac. Thank you so much for joining us here on BBC News.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Take care. Now, let's go back